If you're an enterprise leader, or really just an AI enthusiast trying to keep up, this is the deep dive you need. AWS is making a huge platform-level bet. It feels like we're seeing this signal that we're officially moving past the simple chatbots and, the basic copilots.
We are. That's exactly right. If you were watching reInvent 2025, the message was completely unmistakable. AWS has put Agentic AI, these autonomous digital workers, right at the absolute center of their entire enterprise strategy.
So our mission today is pretty simple. We've gone through all the core announcements, and we're trying to give you the shortcut. For the decision makers who need to get agents out of that fuzzy proof of concept stage and into actual production.
And this isn't just about hosting LLMs anymore. It's about letting the AI do things. The leadership team, especially CEO Matt Garman, they hammered this home. The core idea is that agents are the next big platform shift, bigger than anything since the cloud itself.
Wow, they really said that.
Explicitly. They're talking about a future with billions of agents inside every company, working on their own, learning, coordinating.
Okay, let's unpack this. If agents are the new application layer, AWS can't just be a model provider anymore. What are they actually doing to become the runtime and the control plane for all this?
Well, they get that enterprise-grade agents are a different beast. It's not just about code. You need security, you need observability, and you need them to be long-lived. So they're building that runtime. They want to be the place where these enterprise-safe agents live.
And the first big sign of that are these new frontier agents.
Yeah.
Right? Like packaged virtual team members.
Exactly. They launched 3 of them, and it really signals where their focus is. Software development, security, and operations, the places where automation can have a massive immediate impact.
Okay, let's start with code. The Kiro autonomous agent. What's the story there?
Kiro is, think of it as your virtual developer, or maybe even a tech lead. Its job isn't just suggesting a line of code. It maintains context over weeks. Imagine a huge project touching 50 different repos. Kiro can handle that. Bug triage, code improvements, all of it, over time.
So it's not just a programmer, it's like a project manager who also codes.
That's a perfect way to put it. And it learns. It watches human pull requests. It takes feedback. It gets better. It really is positioned as a teammate.
Okay, so from building code to defending it,
Right.
The AWS security agent. This feels like a must-have for everyone.
It's the virtual security engineer that never sleeps. It's constantly doing secure design reviews, code analysis, even some light pen testing. It runs all the time across the whole development lifecycle. The goal is to make security a continuous process, not a gate at the very end.
And then for anyone who's ever been on call, the AWS DevOps agent.
This one might have the most immediate impact. It's your virtual SRE. It detects, diagnoses, and helps fix incidents. And what makes it so powerful is its data sources. It pulls observability data from everywhere. CloudWatch, Datadog, New Relic, Splunk.
Wait, it can synthesize data across all those different tools? They're usually in their own silos.
Yes. And it learns from past incidents. It knows what worked and what didn't. So when an alert comes in at 3 a.m., the agent can pull logs, see a recent deployment, diagnose the problem, and maybe even start a rollback, all before a human has even logged in. That's the level of autonomy we're talking about.
So these aren't just scripts. They're not fire and forget. They're designed to be long-running members of the team, to actually own work.
That's the jump from POC to production. But that autonomy, that power, it brings up the biggest question for any enterprise.
How do you control it? How do you govern it?
Exactly.
Which brings us to, I think, the most interesting part of the architecture. Amazon Bedrock Agent Core. This is the control plane. And for big regulated companies, this is where the rubber meets the road.
The updates here show a laser focus on operational maturity. This is what boards and compliance teams care about. They announced 3 big new capabilities, and the first one, policy, is probably the most critical.
So it's natural language policy, but with fine-grained control. How does that actually work? Because blocking action sounds good, but what's the mechanism?
Okay, so think of the policy layer as a bouncer. The agent decides it wants to do something like access the production database. That request gets intercepted by the Agent Core gateway before it's executed.
So it checks the request before anything happens.
Precisely. And this is the key. It operates outside the agent's reasoning loop. It's deterministic. It doesn't matter if the LLM hallucinates or tries to go rogue. The policy layer just says no based on the rules you set. That's separation of concerns. That's the real enterprise control point.
That is huge. It completely divorces the safety from the intelligence. Okay, so what about evaluations? Because moving an agent into the real world is terrifying.
The valuations are meant to de-risk that. It's continuous monitoring for when the agent is live. You get built-in checks for things like correctness, safety, helpfulness, and you can add your own custom ones too.
So if the agent's performance starts to drift in the real world, you get an alert before something bad happens.
Yeah, it moves quality control from being an audit after the fact to being a proactive, continuous thing. And the final piece, episodic memory, tackles the context window problem.
Wait, hold on. Episodic memory. Isn't that just a fancy name for a long prompt history? How does the reflection process stop the prompt from just getting bloated and expensive?
That's a great question because that's the important nuance. It does log everything, the context, the reasoning, the actions. But the innovation is that reflection process. The agent uses a bit of compute to look back on that log and ask, what did I actually learn here? What's reusable?
So it distills the lesson into a smaller, high-value piece of knowledge instead of keeping every single word.
Exactly. It lets the agent improve without that massive, inefficient context window. And this combination policy evolves memory is why companies like Thomson Reuters and S&P Global are already using it. They value the control.
Speaking of control, agents have to plug into real business processes, right? Things that can take days or even months. What's AWS doing there?
This is where they bridge the gap between that new autonomous world and the old deterministic workflow world. The key announcement was the upgrade to Lambda durable functions.
Lambdas have always been fast and stateless. Durable sounds like a complete change in what they can do.
It is a massive change. Developers can now write these multi-step workflows that can run for up to a year. So a function can just pause. It can wait for a human approval or an external event without you paying for idle compute.
So no more complicated step functions or state machines, just to handle a workflow that needs a human to sign off on something. The function just waits.
It just waits. It brings real statefulness to serverless. And we're seeing this move right into the customer experience layer, too, into the UI.
Where the business value is pretty easy to measure.
Oh, absolutely. We saw two big things. First, Amazon Connect Agentic AI. These agents work over voice and messaging. They use the new Novasonic voice model, so they sound incredibly natural. But the enterprise value is the transparency. You can see exactly what the agent understood, what tool it chose, and why.
That traceability is crucial for customer service.
And then there's the fix for brittle UI automation. Nova Act is now generally available. It builds UI agents for things like filling out complex forms or QA testing. AWS is claiming over 90% reliability in enterprise scenarios, which is, well, it's a huge deal for anyone who's used older automation tools that break if you move a button.
So you can mix and match. You can have a scripted deterministic flow using a durable Lambda that pauses and waits for an autonomous agent to complete a task in a UI.
And it's all governed end-to-end. The governance isn't an afterthought. It's woven through the entire stack.
Let's dig into that security story a bit more. You mentioned guardrails and policy. How do they work together?
It's defense in depth. Guardrails are at the top. They constrain the LLM's raw output, stop it from saying something harmful or inappropriate, but that doesn't stop it from doing something harmful.
Right. Preventing action is different.
And that's where the agent core policy comes in. It sits underneath the guardrails and controls access to tools and data. So a guardrail stops the agent from making up a dangerous recipe, and the policy stops it from accessing the production database to order the ingredients. It's a really strong story for least privilege access.
And the AWS security agent is reinforcing this constantly, right?
Yeah.
It's an ongoing process.
It closes the loop. Agents build the code, agents review the code for security, and policies govern what all the agents are allowed to do.
But none of this works in a walled garden. Which brings us to the Model Context Protocol, MCP. This felt like a huge strategic move.
It's AWS being very pragmatic and open. They know enterprises are messy, so they're pushing MCP adoption with the new API Gateway MCP proxy.
What does that proxy actually solve for a company?
Think about all the thousands of old REST APIs that run every big company. Before, connecting them to an agent was a custom job for each one. The MCP proxy lets you expose those existing APIs as MCP-compatible endpoints basically instantly.
So it makes all your old tech immediately consumable by modern AI agents without a huge refactoring project. That's a massive accelerator.
It is, and partners are already on board. New Relic is using it to feed observability data to the DevOps agent. IBM is supporting it with their Context Forge gateway. It really feels like MCP is becoming the standard for how agents talk to enterprise systems.
So how does this position them against the other hyperscalers? How is this strategy different from, say, Microsoft's?
AWS is stressing that it's not just about who has the best model. They're focusing on long-running agents, deep cloud integration, full stack control, all the way down to their custom silicon. That really speaks to regulated customers.
And there's a difference in the user experience layer, too.
A big one. Microsoft is embedding Copilot deep inside its own productivity suite, Microsoft 365. They're optimizing their ecosystem. AWS wants to be the neutral infrastructure layer, the agent runtime that works across any SaaS ecosystem, Salesforce, SAP, whatever you're running.
What's fascinating here is they're basically making the pitch that they're the safest pair of hands, the most operationally mature place to run agents that touch production systems.
That shift to operational maturity is everything. That's how you get these projects approved. The Wild West POC era is over. Now it's about governed, auditable, production-ready agents.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, the leaders who have to act on this?
Well, the signal from re:Invent is crystal clear. Agents are the next layer of the tech stack, and AWS gave us the 3 pillars for deployment: the autonomous power of the frontier agents, the essential controls in Agent Core, and the long-running stability of durable workflows.
So the advice for leaders is, you have to start now, but start smart. Pick a focused area: dev, security, ops, and let an agent own a defined task. And crucially, use those new evaluation and policy tools from day one. Govern it before you even think about scaling it.
The enterprise framework is what enables the scale, not just the model.
And as we look ahead, it feels like interoperability is going to decide who wins this agent war. So here's the final thought to mull over. Given that partners like New Relic are already using the Model Context Protocol, the MCP, to feed intelligence into these agents, how quickly does MCP become the non-negotiable standard? Because if your current enterprise tools aren't MCP ready, they might soon be totally invisible to this next generation of digital workers.